The Unknown Regions is possibly the true last frontier of the Star Wars galaxy, being the center of the most dangerous factions and horrifying creatures Legends and canon has to offer. So let's put in those hyperdrive coordinates and jump to the Unknown Regions. The Anchto system was a planet that orbited two stars and was the site of the first ever Jedi Temple. This planet was an ocean planet dotted with small islands all over its surface and was the system Luke Skywalker fled to. Exegol was an extremely difficult planet to get to and was an ancient world of the Sith, where Darth Sidious would clone himself and the Sith Eternal trained. Ilum was the planet Jedi younglings were taken to acquire a kyber crystal for their future lightsaber. The First Order would then fully terraform Ilum's equator into a fully functional system destroying superweapon known as Starkiller Base. That fueled its weapon by draining its nearby star. Parnassus was the homeworld of Captain Phasma and was once green and full of life. At one point, Constar Mining Company would colonize Parnassus until a terrible nuclear disaster would turn this planet into a desolate wasteland, and Captain Phasma and other colonizers were left behind by Constar Mining. Rakata Prime goes by many names like the Lahan and the Unknown World. It's said its surface has the scars of a battlefield, but is covered in lush green. In Star Wars Legends, Rakata Prime was home to the Rakata species and the Infinite Empire. The Infinite Empire would utilize their superior technology to enslave other species until a civil war caused the Infinite Empire to fall in 25,200 BBY. Scylla was a freezing ice-locked planet homeworld to the Chiss species in the Chiss Extendancy. Scylla could be accessed by a few dangerous hyperspace jumps. In Legends, in 27,000 BBY, humans arrived on Scylla in sleeper ships and slowly adapted to the freezing environment and developed into the Chiss with dark blue skin and red eyes. The sentient legend Shiadu was a shape-shifting species hailing from the Laomon system. Shiadu's natural complexion consisted of wide mouths, sunk-in eyes, thin but dense bone, pale skin, detachable limbs, and a 500-year-old lifespan. Their shape-shifting abilities allowed them to increase and decrease mass or become a one-to-one carbon copy, making many Shiadu popular in assassinations and spying. The legend Cyrook were dinosaur-like sentient species from the planet Elwek and were very religious and cultured. The Cyrook would eventually attack the known Star Wars galaxy during the invasion of Bakara and 4 ABY, led by their fleet known as the Cyruvi Imperium. The sentient insectoid known as the Killik and often resided in nests. In Legends, the Killik came from the planet Alderaan and eventually migrated and settled in the unknown regions. Killik varied in size, color, and were genetically diverse and reproduced rapidly like most bugs. The Killik were also telepathic to every member of its nest, included captured humans called joiners. The Suma Verminoth was a ginormous, non-sentient space octopus sporting countless eyes and tentacles, hailing from the red honeycomb zone in the unknown regions and other dangerous areas in the galaxy like the Akkadi's Maelstrom, the star cluster nightmare that clouded the planet Kessel and where Han Solo did his famous Kessel run. The legend Sorcerers of Ran was a group of creatures that thought that there was a greater power over the force known as the Dark. These Randites ruled over the Nahil Retreat, a collection of stellar clusters in the Perenn Nebula in the unknown regions. Star Weirds were ancient, horrifying creatures that existed with the Force. These Star Weirds could scream so loud their victim will be deafened by their ears bursting with blood. Don't even bother trying to fight back. They're practically immune to impalement and blaster fire, and could haunt the vacuum of space. By the time of the Galactic Civil War, most Star Weirds were widely considered extinct. One of the most dangerous creatures, in my opinion, in Star Wars Legends is known as the Mongol Mongol of the unknown regions, hailing from the planet Mugfalo, a world covered in gray sludge that made up the Mongol Mongol. The Mongol Mongol was believed to be extra dimensional. The Mongol Mongol could fully control a host after forcing their way into a sentience. The natural form of Mongol Mongols were thick gray ooze that could shapeshift or move quickly and smelled like a rotting corpse. These overpowered extra dimensional zombie blobs could fly and break its mass apart. The Mongol Mongol eats its host's brain away and takes control until 24 hours later, the Mongol Mongol hollowed out its husked out host. All Mongol Mongol is a hive mind series. No matter how far one is away, they all share one mind. The greatest threat to the known galaxy was a legend sentient species that even the Chiss seen as outsiders. I am, of course, talking about the Yuuzhan Vong. These religious zealots seen technology as offensive and blasphemy. Everything the Yuuzhan Vong utilized, from their ships to their armor and even their weapons, were purely organic in nature. Yuuzhan Vong's homeworld was an ancient world known as Yuuzhan Tar, beyond the unknown regions in the Star Wars galaxy. In Legends, the Yuuzhan Vong invasion claimed over 300 trillion sentient beings during the war and even partially terraformed parts of Coruscant. Force users couldn't sense the Yuuzhan Vong and were immune to Force attacks. The Yuuzhan Vong was typically taller, heavier, and had 2 to 3 lifespans than an average human. The Unknown Regions was a vast, unknown, and unexplored area of space beyond the known Star Wars galaxy. One key factor that drove off many explorers was the dangerous and hazardous anomalies that littered the unique space of the Unknown Regions. The Unknown Region was basically its own pocket Star Wars galaxy, although taking up almost half the galaxy. With instead of the Empire Rebels and the CIS, you have the Chiss, the Cyruvi Imperium, and the Rakata. After the Empire's fall at Jakku, many Imperial remnants would go into hiding in the unknown regions to soon rebuild into the First Order. One safer way to navigate the unknown regions is with a force sensitive navigator, so you evade the countless supernovae, black holes, gravity wells, and the unexplainable. There is still just so much more to discuss in the future. But remember, before you jump to the unknown, pack a few more thermal detonators and maybe even a prayer, because you're going to need it.